Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Hello students, now let's talk about February Revolution to October Revolution here. Now, before the students, we were discussing about the February Revolution that took place in the year 1917, right? So we also saw why the revolution took place and who caused this revolution. So it was led by Petrograd, right? St. Petersburg. It was renamed as Petrograd. So we saw that in this place, at this place, the workers who were agitated by their living conditions and they had various demands, but mostly when they were facing the scarcity of food due to harsh winters in Russia or in Petrograd specifically, since we are discussing about the February Revolution. So we see that these people, they went on strike, right? And they were joined by other workers in large numbers, and also women also joined the strikes. So finally, suspension of Duma, important point here. The attack on police headquarters, when the policemen, they refused to fire on the demonstrators, we see that all these people, they are now forming Soviets or councils, right? So the Soviets and councils were formed at the place where Duma also used to meet. So finally, provincial government was being formed with the help of whom? So with the Soviet leaders and the Duma leaders, military commanders, they advised the Tsar to abdicate the throne. So finally, we can say that the whole gist of this February Revolution, it led to the fall of monarchy. Now, fall of monarchy, autocracy here that we can say. Now, Tsar is no longer in power here. So, someone has to form the government. So, Constituent Assembly was formed under whom? Under this provincial government that was headed by, or that was formed under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky. A new term here for you is the provincial government, right? So, the Duma leaders and the Soviet leaders, they together formed the provincial government. Now, who were these people in this provincial government here? So, army officials, landowners, industrialists, they were the influential classes in the provincial government. Okay, so do not get confused here that there was autocracy in Russia and right now we see that there is no autocracy. Remember the impact of the February Revolution here. It led to the fall of the Tsar rule in Russia. Okay, and the new government that was formed was provincial government. And these were some of the influential people in the provincial government here, right? We know that it was formed with the help of Soviet leaders and the Duma leaders, right? The political leaders here. Apart from this, we see that what is happening after February Revolution. Now the revolution has taken place. Now before the October Revolution, what were the changes that were happening here, right? So restrictions were also removed on the public meetings. Under Tsar, students, you have read that the Soviets and all other political organizations, they were restricted, right? So all these restrictions, they were removed finally when provincial government, it came to the power. Apart from this, we see that Soviets or councils were formed in different regions just like the Petrograd Soviet, right? So Petrograd Soviet, like this, we see that many other Soviets, they were set up everywhere. Okay, so this is how now people, they are changing the administrative setup there, the political atmosphere here in Petrograd and the adjoining areas. Finally, who is coming to the scene here? Vladimir Lenin. You have heard the name earlier, but we see that it was finally in April 1917 that Vladimir Lenin, he returned to Russia from exile. Now, what is this term exile here? So, it is the state of being barred or excluded from one's native country. That could be for political reasons and also many other reasons, from one's native country. So, he was exiled, he was excluded from his own country, Lenin, right? So therefore, we see that finally in April 1917, he came back to Russia when the things they were restored to normalcy here. And here we see that Lenin now had three demands, which was popularly known as Lenin's April thesis. Okay. Now when Lenin he came to Russia, now he thought that the Soviets, it's high time that Soviets should take the complete control in Russia. So he was of this thought that Soviets now should take complete control over Russia. Here we see that Duma leaders were also involved and the Soviet leaders were also involved. But he wanted the complete power here, the absolute power here. Therefore, now he was keeping these demands. Apart from this, since 1914 only, he and all the other Bolshevik leaders, the members, they were against war. Now, why were they against war here? They were not supporting that war should take place. They were against this war because they thought that it would hasten the political system in Russia, right? Which they did not want here, right? They wanted changes here, but not quickly. So therefore, now Lenin, he was demanding three things here that was popularly known as Lenin's April thesis. He came back in April, so the name is given on that basis. Now, what were the three main demands of Lenin here? He demanded that the war should end now. He came in the year 1917, so the war is still going on. So the first point here, the main demand is the war to end. Land should be transferred to peasants. Yes. Now, he was fighting for the rights of peasants, right? So here, he was on this belief of communism, if you remember. So, he believed in collective ownership, right? And the peasants, they were not having large holdings, right? They owned small holdings, and also all these holdings, they were quite uneconomical. Therefore, he wanted that all these lands, they should be transferred to peasants who are working, who are giving their share of work, but they were not giving the wages according to that. Apart from that, he also wanted the banks that should be nationalized. So these were the three main demands of Lenin here. He also argued that Bolshevik party should be renamed as Communist Party. Believing on the ideas of Karl Marx, based on that, he wanted his party to be renamed as Communist Party since he wanted people to know the radical aims of their party now. What were the main aims of their party? What were they demanding? Based on that, he also wanted to rename the party here. Okay. Now, what were the changes happening throughout? So, one side we are seeing that Lenin has come back to the scene here. There were three main demands that Lenin wanted that should be fulfilled, and apart from that, we see that workers' organization or movements, it was also increasing here throughout the summer, okay, after February. So throughout summer, workers' movements were spreading. The soldier committees, they were also formed in the army, right? And in June, 500 Soviets, they were sent as representatives to an All-Russian Congress of Soviets, right? So here basically the working of all these organizations was taking at a fast pace here in this summer region, summer season here, right? June, July, August. So everything is working fine here by now. But at the same time, what are we seeing here? We see that the Bolsheviks, they were trying to increase their control in Russia, and they were being noticed by whom? By the provincial government. Now, the provincial government, they thought that the Bolsheviks might challenge them, right? So, looking at the growing power of the Bolsheviks, now provincial government decided to take stern measures or harsh measures against these Bolsheviks. So, therefore, stern measures were taken by the provincial government. Now, look at the scenario here. Provincial government is now the head here, right? But now they see that they are being challenged by the Bolsheviks, right? And Bolsheviks, they wanted the complete control here, right? The Soviets, they wanted the complete control. So the war here now is between the provincial government and the Bolsheviks who wanted to take the power. Here we see that while we are talking about these stern measures, so all these Bolsheviks, their movements were crushed, right? They had to go into hiding, right? So all this was done by whom? By the provincial government. Apart from this, peasants and the socialist revolutionary leaders, they demanded for the redistribution of land. So here the peasants and the socialist revolutionary leaders who were fighting for the demands of the peasants only, they were demanding for the redistribution of land. So between July-September 1917, we see that under the leadership of whom? Under the leadership of socialist revolutionaries, the peasants, they had seized a lot of lands here between July and September 1917. So here we see that there is a scene of turmoil between the Bolsheviks and the provincial government. The provincial government, they wanted to suppress the Bolsheviks, their power and also their voices. They did not want anyone to challenge their government, and side by side we are seeing that the peasants, the socialist revolutionaries, they are demanding for the redistribution of land. They wanted that the peasants should get the land, right? So fighting for their own rights, now the peasants, they started seizing the lands here. Okay, so this was the whole scenario here before the October Revolution of 1917. Okay. Now coming to the exercise part here, there is a question, which three important demands were the part of Lenin's April thesis? Now how are you going to answer this question? It's quite easy, right? So the first one was that the war should come to an end. The second demand by Lenin was that the lands should be distributed to the peasants. This was the second demand. And the third demand was that banks should be nationalized. So when we will learn about the October Revolution, let us see what happened in the October Revolution. Just remember these points here because this is a crucial point. What happened after February Revolution and what build up, what were the causes that led to the October Revolution, right? And between whom was this October Revolution there, who fought over the major powers here, and what happened after the October Revolution. We are going to understand this part as well. Okay, so that would be your main part of the Russian Revolution. Thank you.